Hello and welcome back. So it is July 14th and I'm still in university and I have a summer break that's all of about 6 weeks this year. That's because of this sort of weird thing where I'm technically studying abroad in Germany right now, even though I am sitting in my childhood bedroom in America. You know, coronavirus. But I'm still doing all of my classes online. That in and of itself has been a whole experience. So I have 2 classes, which I have the last lectures this week. I had the last lecture for one this morning. And I have 2 essays for them due September 10th and September 30th. Which, as you may think, is after when my next year at university starts. So needless to say, I'm going to hand them in earlier than that because I want some semblance of peace and relaxation this summer without assignments hanging over my head. So, having said all that, I have a deadline, sort of self-imposed, sort of imposed by my university because they need my grades at some point, of July 31st. It is now July 14th, that is 16 days. And these essays are both 3,000 words in length. And I already have my topics chosen, but I need to actually, write the essay. So I'm going to use that as an opportunity to show you guys how I write essays. And it's a process that you really need to tailor to yourself, but it's also useful to see how other people do it, and you use that input in your own sort of essay writing processes. So follow along, see how I do it, see if that worked for you, and let's write some essays. So for any big deadline, the first thing that I do is plan out the sort of stages that I'm going to do it in and set dates for those so I have sort of mini deadlines that work up to it and leave myself sort of lots of leeway around other deadlines that I have or sort of other times when I know I'm going to be very busy or not so busy. So since we have 2 deadlines between now and the 31st of July, or we have a deadline of the 31st of July for 2 assignments, I'm going to just split this page in half and basically decide which days I'm going to do each stages, or by which dates I want to have each stage of each essay done, and sort of break that up so I know what I'm working towards on any given day. Okay, so there's my plan. I'm just gonna jazz this up a little bit. Okay, I'm sort of short on the jazzing supplies at the minute, but this will do. So to sort of just point some things out, I usually divide up my essay planning by, first of all, research and creating a structure. And this basically involves brainstorming, what is my thesis, what are the sort of main aspects within the thesis that I need to answer or to research, do sort of cursory research to make sure that there is data available that I need, and so putting it all into the structure of what will each paragraph deal with. It doesn't need to be super detailed, but so I just have a sort of plan of how I'm going to approach it. The next step is a point-by-point plan, and this is where I think the majority of my work goes into. It's always the part that I want to skip because I want to get right to the writing, but the amount of time that you put into creating your point-by-point plan directly correlates with how easy it is to write it in the end. Basically, this is a plan which lays out paragraph by paragraph what topics will be covered in each paragraph, what sources you're going to use, what quotes you're going to use, and sort of a very detailed plan of just what structure will the essay follow. People have a lot of different ways of structuring this. I know some people like charts or using color coding a lot, or a million different ways. I don't find a lot of that very helpful for me. I usually just prefer bullet points and sometimes use highlighting particular words that definitions say, or quotes, or particular aspects, or sometimes just putting it on colored paper because it looks nice. The next step, I usually plan a few days just to write the essay. If I've put in the work creating the point-by-point plan, it's mostly just creating sentences out of bullet points, essentially. That'll be my first draft, and hopefully I won't have to make any major changes, but then I like to let it sit at least a day, if not more. I always end up over the word count, so this is the part where I would go through and just make sure everything I have is actually important, or if there's anything I can cut out to save words. And then the last is just the final edit, making sure that your grammar is okay, that you aren't missing any really important things in the essay, and just reading it over and making sure that it makes sense. After I make this sort of plan, I always go through and add every single one of those self-imposed deadlines to my weekly journal, or Bujo, whatever it is that you use. I find that it really helps to sort of formalize. I also try to be quite strict with sticking to them, because the reason that I have the deadlines is that I have extra room built in case something does happen. So my first step is to create this, do the research, basic research, and create the step-by-step plan, and I will show you my finished product, well, now. Alright, hello and welcome back. It is July 16th, meaning that I have missed my first deadline by a day.
Ooh, you suck!
To just share what I have done so far, this is my completed structure, sort of structure research plan. So that's what it looks like. I put in a bit of pink because, you know, snappy colors always make me work better. And I basically just want to walk you through the main aspects of it. Most of it, I've realized, is sort of questions and definitions, at least in the first part. And that's sort of mainly what is going to guide my research for the more detailed point-by-point plan. So to start off with, the introduction, straightforward. It is an introduction. The most important thing in it is, of course, the thesis. The second two are very dependent on your essay, but sort of background knowledge. So firstly, theoretical framework, which you'll need for most essays, which is basically which researchers or previous authors or academics, which of their work are you going to build on? What are the sort of frameworks that you're going to use? And this is also where you'll need to define any terms or definitions that you will be using. So for me, that's housing security and security of tenure especially. And so I need to just sort of give a brief analysis of what those are. Secondly, for me, it was quite important to put it in historical context. So what other policies were enacted during similar crises, financial crash, natural disasters, etc. And just sort of give a brief explanation of like, what are we talking about? What is the coronavirus crisis? But just in case an alien reads this, they need to know. Okay, so now you get to the real meat of the essay, or the tofu of the essay if you're a vegetarian. And that is whatever your sort of main argument is, or analysis in my case. So in my case, it's all about case studies. So I've got Arkansas, Connecticut, and Germany. The most important aspect, I think, of this for this step of the sort of research, basic research and structure, is making sure that all of the examples that you're using actually have data for them. I was originally going to do the US, Germany, and Japan or Taiwan, but it turns out that there was actually very little information about those countries of the type that I needed, so I had to trash that idea. So just make sure that you have the data available, because it's much easier to change it now than it is later. And then the last part, analysis and predictions, is sort of the part where, for me, it's mostly questions. So pros, cons, how has this turned out? Has it been successful? What can we expect for the future? Is this likely? Is that likely? Etc. So this is where you take all that you've just said and basically explain, so what? What conclusions can you draw from this? Why is it an important thing to study? Why is it useful? And then in conclusion sort of goes on from that, reiterates the thesis, reiterates these findings, and explains why the hell did you do this? Why is it useful to sort of academia or the world at large? So that is the first step, research and structure. Next, I'm going to basically fluff this all out and just put info and research and quotes. So it is Monday now. I have just started writing today, and very exciting. I will show you I'll do a screen record to show you what I've done. So I've finished most of my outlines. This is what it looks like. So I've got sort of filled in all of the information, got my quotes in blue, my sources in pink. Haven't done all that much is filled in the information for the actual case studies. And I know that sounds like the most important part, but it's relatively easy to find, and I have a lot of the information open in tabs. I just haven't actually gone through it. I have actually started writing. I basically have taken these two and just taken this outline and turned it into essay form. And it definitely is quite long. For the moment, it's just about putting it down on paper as an essay. I'm not very satisfied with it at the moment, but I'm gonna keep working on it today, and I think it'll come together at least as a coherent essay. Do you ever write an essay about a really depressing topic? I'm just depressed while researching, Louise. Anyway, that's where I'm at.
One eternity later.
Look at this. It's an essay. An actual, full, complete essay that is really ugly and really messy, and about 1,000 words over the word count, but it exists. Why do essays take so long to do? I'm done with number 1. That's something. But I have a whole other essay to do. And if you think eviction's depressing, this one's all about climate change. I have already changed my thesis once. Today, I'm actually ahead of schedule. Okay, I'm gonna do something I know I'm gonna regret. So my essay 2, I've got a pretty decent outline for like the first half of the essay. But then I get to my case studies and I'm like, I am tired and don't want to read or research anymore. And I haven't done anything for this part. But you know what, I'm just gonna start writing because I want to feel like I'm making progress. As predicted, I got confused about halfway through this essay because I read another paper that I'm gonna use for case study, and it actually had a bunch of important topics and theories that I wanted to work in. So what I usually do when I get to a point where I'm like, I don't even really remember what I'm writing about or what I'm supposed to be trying to do, is draw it out. That works for me. So I've got a nice little mind map, sort of flow chart thing. That's what helps for me. And I can say, here's my thesis, and start with that. Say these two things, comes back together for this. Now I'm just going to take this and try to sort of put it onto the outline that I already have that has all of my quotes and examples and stuff in it. And try to sort of restructure that. I basically have done nothing today except this essay, but I have a first draft. Let me tell you, this is like the fastest I've actually ever written an essay, because I think I'm just filled with a sort of like deep internal rage at the fact that I'm still writing essays this late in the summer, and I am so checked out mentally. I'm like, but I'm going to go through and sort of fix up, like edit and do the references as I go, and then I'll feel like I have like a pretty good handle on it for today. And I want to hand them in by tomorrow because I'm so sick of doing this. I basically haven't moved. It's like 8 p.m. Oh. And I'm using my phone because my camera's out of space and I'm too lazy to fix that. I don't think I've ever been as tired in my life as it. So now it's time to edit. I've got my new CEO cup, got my coffee, got my cat. And I've got my list of how many words I need to take out. 1,000 total, but only a couple of hundred, less than 100 out of each section. So it's doable, and we're gonna do it. Alright, so I am done. I am like actually finished writing. I have 2 full essays. I've done all the sources and everything. I'm done. But I haven't actually handed them in yet because I need to, do some of the formatting stuff. I need to run them through a plagiarism check, which I'm trying to figure out right now. Alright, I have 5% plagiarism apparently. I think that's alright. I have been procrastinating for about 20 minutes, but I'm actually going to hand these in. We're doing it. We're doing it, folks. We made it this far. Bum, bum, bum. God. Oh my god. Okay. Bum, bum, bum. That's it.